All right, now in less than 12 hours from now, the American President Donald Trump will be addressing a joint session of the American Congress. This would, of course, be his first since taking charge as the 47th American president in January. There's a lot that is expected to be on Donald Trump's agenda for the speech. And according to reports, the U.S. president will highlight the biggest announcements that have been made in the past 1 month. So what the administration has achieved so far and what Washington further aims to achieve under Donald Trump in the next 4 years. Now, some analysts believe that the tariffs on Canada, Mexico and China will also find a mention in his speech. Interestingly, Donald Trump's address overlaps with an expiring deadline on tariff implementation after a month-long halt. According to some U.S. media reports, Donald Trump will also talk about his plans for a budget overhaul that the U.S. president refers to as one big, beautiful bill. Just last week, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to pass a budget plan that aims to slash public spending by $2 trillion and allow for tax cuts amounting to $4.5 trillion. The Senate now needs to approve the headline numbers in the budget before a second round of vote on separate bills detailing the new provisions. The Republican leader will also be addressing his administration's aggressive undertaking to reform the American agencies. Now, in the past month, Donald Trump has signed on a barrage of executive orders that are aimed on a major overhaul. The biggest act so far includes the mass layoffs across America's federal agencies. The decision has triggered a nationwide outcry and has also opened the floodgates to a number of lawsuits against the American president and his billionaire loyalist Elon Musk. Now, at the end of the president's speech, it is customary for the party in opposition to make a rebuttal. Responding on behalf of the Democrats is Michigan Senator Elisa Slotkin. The 48-year-old is a first-time senator and has been dubbed as a rising star of the blue camp. Ms. Slotkin is a former CIA analyst who has served on both political sides under George W. Bush and also Barack Obama, respectively. All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what, of course, is expected in Donald Trump's address to the joint sitting of the Congress, we're joined by Dr. Christina Dragomir, who is a political analyst and a commentator. She's joining us live from New York. Now, Dr. Dragomir, this is a big moment for the American people. Donald Trump has been the president for about 45 days now, and he's going to be making that crucial address to the joint sitting of the Congress. What are we to expect?
Hello, Mohammed. Thank you very much for having me over. So I think that Donald Trump, in his new presidency, already accustomed us with his rejection of tradition. He is already signaling that his approach is going to be rather different from the ones that were appropriated by his predecessors. So that means that all bets are off. He's going to tell it like it is, as he said earlier. But nevertheless, there are certain things that he will have to touch upon. He would have to talk to the American people. The media has been saying recently that he is been dropping in the polls. His approval rates are much lower than it used to be. I would say that we need to really be cautious about this, because even though we see that his approval rates are dipping, they are not at the rate of the changes that he has been making in the government. Secondly, he is to address the Congress. We see right now a Congress that is very different from the one that was 4 years ago when President Trump first addressed Congress in his presidential role. What do I mean by this? Is that even though he won and he was the president, and there were many Republicans that were in Congress, that was a Congress that was dominated still by the Democrats, and moreover, the Republicans that were in Congress back then, they were Republicans that were not sold yet, if I may say so, to the MAGA ideas. Right now, what we see is a Congress that is fully behind President Trump, with very few people that are questioning any of his decisions, any of his cabinet appointees, and so on. You have just shown, Mohammed, how Republicans have voted already, with only one Republican voted nay in the previous voting, which means that it's expected that the Republicans will basically line up and will support not only the decisions of President Trump, but also of the MAGA as it's been shaping up policies that the current presidency has been pushing forward.
You know, Dr. Dragomir, it's interesting that you're mentioning about the popularity of Donald Trump, which has remained by and large intact. But for him to remain keep his popularity intact, he also needs to ensure that he addresses the problem of inflation. But considering that Donald Trump wants to start a tariff war of sorts, because by the time his address, of course, he begins to deliver his address, the deadline expires for the tariffs that he wants to impose on Mexico and Canada and also on China. Tariffs means that the price of commodities that the Americans will purchase will obviously go up, because at the end of the day, the cost of these tariffs will have to be borne by the common American people. How popular do you think Donald Trump's tariff war will be with the American public?
Donald Trump is banking on the fact that this increasing prices are actually going to be supported by the people who are sending those goods towards the United States. And he is probably seeing this as a very bold economic move in which he will be able to change the course, not only of the prices, but also of the relationships between Mexico, United States, Canada, United States, trying to link this to reinforcement at the border. However, as this is proposed as such to the American people, economists by and large have been saying that indeed, Mohammed, as you just said, this is going to lead to an increase in the prices that people pay in the United States for the groceries. It is estimated that the cost will rise by $2,000 annually for each household. So this is a very large increase that American people will feel rather immediately. So it is to be seen how the people of the United States that will brunt the cost of these changes will actually react to this.
Right.
This is something that Donald Trump will have to address, but I think that he will make this as a part of his vision rather than a clear plan and a detailed plan, as we have seen previously, about how he will proceed. So we're going to hear probably an encouragement and a vision today that he's going to propose to the American people and probably to Congress, who on the March 14th has to vote on his new budget, and otherwise it's going to be shut down. So it's going to have a double effect.
Indeed, it will be very interesting to see as to how this will play out. Thank you very much, Dr. Dragomir, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
My pleasure as always. Thank you very much.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.